We want to have a look.
Oh, look at that pause, though.
Very
Look
good. Well,
at that.
That's not even me. That's the start. May not quite be the start. There's the start there. We were talking a little bit about, there's a couple of things going on here. It's really about the ACT Party wanting to attach performance pay to public sector jobs. I think primarily the executives in there, and basically giving them the opportunity to be paid based on their outcomes. That's turned into a bit of conversation about the public sector on Twitter today, but let's just have a look at this, because Ryan Bridge had on an expert in the public service group, part of the union in the area, and I'm going to watch more of Ryan's commentary than we normally watch, although we haven't had Ryan on for a while. Welcome back, Ryan, friend of the show, because he seems so dismissive. This person, I guess, would be an expert, and it's like he's trying to convince this person to his view being right over her view as someone working in the area. But let's just, we'll play a few minutes of this and give you the gist of it and then jump back.
Now, the ACT Party has vowed to rein...
I apologise, it seems to be in mono in my ear. I don't know if it's mono in your ear, Chewy, but if it's mono in your end, if you're listening in stereo,
all right.
I apologise, it's in mono in my ear. Here we go.
Now, the ACT Party has vowed to rein in public sector spending if elected. It wants more accountability and has promised to introduce performance pay for the chief executives of government departments and agencies. Public Service Association National Secretary Kerry Davies is with us. Kerry, thank you for being with us. What's wrong with performance pay for public sector bosses? These guys are earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if they're not getting the results...
I could stop this conversation before it goes any further. Can I just answer it before she's much better than me, but the answer is, well, it depends what your metric is. How do you measure a service? Public sector is typically services. How do you measure a service? I went through this when national standards came out, and was I teaching when national standards came out? No, I don't think I was. But the point being, if you have that's an even better freeze frame. Did you notice that one? If you had a school with children who weren't doing quite so well because that's the level they were at, then advancing them 10%, they may still not be doing as well as the school next door where they're doing much better. How do you measure that metric? Which is more valuable? When you're providing a service for a government, how do you measure what is success necessarily? I'm not saying not for everything. There will be some categories you'll be able to do it in, but of course ACT comes out, David Seymour comes out and just goes, well, half of MBIE will go. Okay, which half? Nothing. How will they go? Nothing. So this is another one of these, I hate the term, populist type things. Populist to the people who would vote for ACT is that we're going to make these bosses performance pay. How are you going to do that? Well, we don't have any of that information.
I don't have to follow it through.
No, because honestly, people like Ryan Bridge will do the yards for me. And honestly, he does. Have a listen.
Shouldn't we introduce performance pay so that they might do that?
Paying bonus payments to CEs to motivate them to do their job is not the solution. What the public service needs is skilled staff and resources to be able to deliver on the substantial challenges that we face as a country. Those challenges and the issues that we now have to deal with are very complex and also are growing in magnitude. And so we need a really competent and well-resourced public service to be able to properly support the government of the day.
Okay, how much more resource does the public service need? Currently, the average CEO salary is $478,000, and core Crown expenditure has increased from $80 billion in 2017 to $137 billion today. That is a 70% increase. How much more resource do you need?
Which of course is an unanswerable question. It's like, hey, Chewy, I know you're fixing up your house and you budgeted $100,000, and now you're saying you want $200,000. How much more do you need? Well, the answer is, well, it depends on how much work we're going to get done. If we need $200,000 to refurbish the house, then $200,000 is what we need. If we only need $100,000, then $100,000 is what we need. So it's a trap question that doesn't have an answer, and because it doesn't have an answer, you can't suffice it.
No, he just wanted to mention those numbers.
Yep.
That was the whole purpose of that.
Yep.
The public service is a lot more than the CEs. It's ordinary teachers, nurses, people delivering much needed social services to ordinary New Zealanders. And the percentage of the public service that has remained, the employment, the workforce, has remained at 20% over the last 20 years. So that is irrespective of which government has been in government, which political party has been in government, that the public service workforce has maintained a consistent percentage of the overall employment.
But the numbers have gone up under Labor.
Well, we've
Good
They haven't
good
gone up
noticing.
under Labor. They've gone up commensurate with the.
Yeah, but listen to the answer. We'll start again.
Well, they haven't gone up under Labor. They've gone up commensurate with the population increase.
Proportionally.
I guess here's the problem, Kerry.
Okay, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard an interviewer say. Honestly, this is the dumbest thing.
That's a high bar for Brian.
No. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard an interviewer say, because she's just said, yes, the numbers have gone up, but they've gone up proportionally to the population increase, and this is his fucking response.
Problem, Kerry. The public's not agreeing with what you're saying.
Oh, I didn't realise that the public get to decide what the data is. I didn't understand that the public get to say, we don't agree with you, therefore you're wrong, person with the data and the facts. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard an interviewer say in an interview. Person A gives facts, person B goes, yeah, but the public don't like those facts. This is the interview.
Oh, thanks for that. Statistics and facts. Let me just reach into my bag here. It doesn't match up with these right-wing vibes that I have.
It's just the vibe.
How do you answer that?
Well, let's see how he answers it, eh?
With the population increase.
Okay, but I guess that here's the problem, Kerry.
It's not a problem.
The public's not agreeing with what you're saying.
Not agreeing.
Like the government expenditure has increased by 70% over the last 5-6 years. And
I wonder what happened
the
in 5 or
public,
6
according to
years.
surveys, is saying actually our services are getting worse, whether it's health or education or whatever. Are you saying the answer to that is actually more money? I mean, can you see the mismatch here?
Well, just to go back to your question, there's been an increase of 14,000 public servants since 2017 in the core public service. There's been an increase in the private sector of 100,000 employees. So we need to get this in perspective. We've also had during that time, that includes people who have been employed to deal with the COVID response, and also with the weather events, and also to manage the increase in demand due to population increases.
So have all those people who are hired due to the COVID response now been fired now that COVID's over?
Some of them have.
We've still got all those people.
That's not true.
So let's be real. And why are you comparing us to the private sector? Why are you comparing us to the private sector when the private sector is growing? You know, that they're trying to grow jobs, they're trying to grow an economy. How is that a relevant comparison?
What do you think the public sector is?
Because the private sector can't grow without a strong public sector, and you've just witnessed that throughout the last 3-4 years during the business subsidy payments, the employment support that private sector employers needed to be able to deal with emergencies. And if we're going to talk about the public sector and the overall workforce, we need to get it in perspective of what the number of employees that work in the public sector vis-a-vis the private sector. It's not out of kilter at all. It's maintained at the same percentage of proportion of the economy at 20% over the last 20 years.
So 20%, which we're not actually at the moment. We're at about, what does it show you, 18 point something?
18.7.
So now they're talking about the core public service, but I put a tweet out today, which was received in a certain way. My data is accurate, right? Because there are currently 450,000 people who are public servants. 450,000 is the accurate number. I cite the resource. I have citations for that that I put up. Now, over all public servants, all of them, right? So that's everything. That's teachers, that's nurses, that's everything. 14,000 new ones is 3%. Now, 3% new public servants since 2017. in the same time period, the population has grown by 10%. Now, someone put a different data up there and they said it was only 9%. But let's just say since 2017, all public servants numbers have gone up by about 3%. And the population has gone up well more than 3 times that in a percentage wise. So if anything, perhaps Labor is underutilising the number of public services servants we need across all sectors. Now, something else, Cherie, and I've got your quote up on there, your thing up on there. Shall I read it out? I'll read it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's on my screen, it's probably a bit bigger. So percentage of public sector employment, so that's all public sector employment, a percentage of the total workforce according to the OECD. Sweden is 28.6%, Denmark is nearly 28%, Finland is 24 and a bit, Iceland is 24, France is 21.2, Belgium is 21.1, Canada is 19.8. Now just think about in your head the best countries to live in. All those countries that end up with like the number one on the happiness scale, number one on the best place to live, number one on the best healthcare, number one on the
educational achievement,
education, all those ones. Do those names sound fucking familiar? Well, they're all the ones with a full and well-used public sector. New Zealand is at 18.7, and this government wants to get in, the next government potentially wants to get in and drop those numbers dramatically. Remembering that over all of our public servants, we've had a 3% increase when the population is growing, let's say, and be fair, because I don't want to be wrong, by more than 8% in the same time period, Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had right-wing governments try and bring in performance-based funding in education before, and it was fucking disaster. And when you try and bring in these corporate structures and KPIs and stuff like that and try to build someone's remuneration after it and then try and build a bonus structure around it and that sort of thing, it has never worked. It has never worked. It has always been a pretense to run a public service down, to point to it and go, look at the shit show that this is, and look, people are leaving in droves for the private sector, so we might as well just get the private sector to do it. And we end up with privatized water, hospitals, schools, all of that bad stuff. Ryan Bridge is a twat. I think apropos of nothing, but I think it does need to be said. And you look at all of those countries with absolutely like well-functioning government entities, and as you said, all of these good things with educational and happiness and all of that sort of stuff. We're pretty, we always turn to the Scandi countries and go, fuck, those guys have got their shit together.
Yeah,
high taxation, high public service. Everybody seems to fucking dig it. And then we're in that band of like, yeah, but we don't want to do that too much. Belgium, Canada, us, the UK, all very much in a band. And the Scandi countries are happy to do lots more. France has the advantage of if you try and change any sort of social program, someone tries to burn Paris down. So they like to have a few more civil servants in there. But they're dealing with the same thing. They get a right-wing government that wants to sell off to China and that sort of thing. But yes, the idea that a public servant is bad, automatically sitting in a back room, eating their lunch, not doing anything. I know public servants, they work fucking hard. Yeah. And they would much rather work directly for the government, directly in there, rather than private sector contractors, that sort of thing.
It's the shell game as well. We talk about the shell game quite a bit. It is the shell
game.
Because they're going big number, 400,000, big number.
Bad.
And fuck, it is a big number. You're right, it is a big number, but it doesn't paint the picture. It doesn't paint the picture overall. And much like happened with, and you'll know more about this than me, Chewie, because you're more involved in the knowledge around the Air Force. But when you mothball the Air Force, and all your pilots go off overseas and they do other things, and then if you'd like to start it again, there's none left. So you're going to get rid of half of these people like that, and then when you realise you've completely fucked the country and the government as to how it's supposed to operate, then you try and get people back in to fix it, or let's be honest, you have to start paying contractors, which would be the usual situation that you'd find under a national government. Rally against contractors, get rid of a bunch of people, then have to start paying contractors twice as much. You end up being in a worse place. It's not rocket science, but it is populist, and it is, Chewie, working for them politically.
The wheel turns. We've been there in the great fucking state-owned enterprise sellout of the early 90s, that sort of thing. We've seen this overseas, specifically in the UK and that sort of thing. Run down your social services, run down the arms of your government that actually do stuff for the people, and then go, look at this. They're terrible and inefficient. So we're just not going to bother. We're not going to pour money into the NHS or public water or anything like that. We're going to sell it all. And we're going to sell it to people that are going to make profit. So it's not going to be great for you. It's going to be great for our friends.
Yeah.
My friends in the UK, the people that I know in the UK, they are fighting so hard to keep the NHS. And they know that throughout COVID, the UK would have been a basket case without the NHS, but at the same time, the government is trying to run down their COVID response so they could point to the NHS and say it's not fit for standard. And I see that so much with our right-wing Tory-style government. I just know that National is reading the UK Conservative government's fucking homework.
Oh, yeah.
Like even down to the slogans that they use.
Yeah.
You know, it's so obvious. I come back to that, the mentioning, Simeon Brown running down, the potential for regional rail and how it's expensive and inefficient, and the intercity could do a better job. And then, as I said, you just look, who owns intercity? Oh, okay, a big overseas investment company run out of the Cayman Islands with a single office that is the same office for hundreds of other companies. And there's no bugger there. Oh, but they managed to give National a big fucking donation. Like, it's transparent. It should make people furious.